So now it's our final story, real
Well,
quick.
I
Oh,
want
what's
to
up?
call out Rhiannon. In Oakland today, I was walking to the store an hour ago and got two people that never voted before to go and vote tomorrow for Bernie.
Rock and
Nice.
roll.
That's
Let's kick
winning
that
by winning.
revolution
Look at
into
that. You just turned
overdrive.
your one vote into 3 votes. You increased your voting power by 300%. That's how you win. If
Rihanna, you are
everyone
a
watching
hero.
this,
Thank you.
we're still a growing channel. If everyone watching this, let's say everyone lived in California, went out and got 5 people to vote, that's enough to swing an entire county.
Yep. So go figure. Now, Paul, what's our final story? Take it away.
Critics warn the U.S. Taliban deal exposes the fallacies of the endless war program. So while President Donald Trump bragged on Saturday about an agreement signed by the U.S. government and the Taliban as a milestone towards ending the war in Afghanistan that has raged now for nearly 2 decades, devastating the Afghan people and the wider region, Representative Barbara Lee, one of the staunchest anti-war voices in Congress, denounced the deal as little more than a sham. Quote, "After nearly 2 decades of endless war, it's become clear there is no military solution to the conflict in Afghanistan," Lee said in a statement. "But this so-called peace deal is anything but." So the peace deal is going to have, so it says Washington will start a phased withdrawal of troops. Troop levels will be cut to 8,600 over the next 135 days, and 5 bases will be closed. If both sides keep their commitments, all U.S. military forces could leave Afghanistan by spring of 2021, although Washington is thought to want to keep intelligence services on the ground fighting ISIS and al-Qaeda. According to Lee, nobody should be fooled into thinking that this is a peace agreement. Quote, "It leaves thousands of troops in Afghanistan and lacks the critical investments in peace building, human-centered development, or governance reform needed to rebuild the Afghan society." So I think she's talking a lot about what really has historical precedence. We've been operating in Afghanistan more or less since the late 1970s. Remember our major investments in the Mujahideen. And we've kind of come and gone with various levels of influence. So in the late 70s and through the 80s, it was, arming more or less jihadist warlord groups in order to have them be a nuisance to the Russian military that was in Afghanistan until Russia finally withdrew. It was the soft underbelly of the Soviets, right, back in the 80s. But then we kind of withdrew also and kind of left the people in Afghanistan hanging, and that allowed for areas to fester of those jihadist militant groups, some of which became, the Taliban, some of which became al-Qaeda. And actually, a lot of that was radicalized jihadists coming out of Saudi Arabia going into Afghanistan. And what they're talking about here sounds more or less the same, a staged troop withdrawal, and a lot of interest in trying to keep in touch with some of those radical elements to try and kind of have intelligence and sort of seek to influence strategy in other parts of the Middle Eastern region. This is the kind of thing that, to me, looks like an attempt at peace, but again, what Barbara Lee says is completely important, that there really are none of the hallmark building blocks toward an actual peace deal here. This doesn't look like any kind of reciprocal rebuilding, no acknowledgement of damage done, no trying to work toward a brighter future. This is just hey, we're going to withdraw troops over the next couple of years and just kind of leave you be. But, we want our CIA to stay there. We want them to be there. Don't worry about them. That it doesn't seem to put the Afghan leadership in a position of authority. It still seems that they're leaving them hanging with this kind of power vacuum and dealing with these militant jihadist groups. And it's a mess. And it's interesting. They say Mike Pompeo is over there. He's the first member of a presidential cabinet to meet with a member of the Taliban. And so that's interesting. Zalmay Khalilzad is who he met with to sign these peace documents. And yeah, it's just bizarre. It's hard to know what exactly to make of it, but I take Barbara Lee at her word that these are not the correct stepping stones to actual peace.
So, okay, we're talking about Trump here. We know Trump has a very, obvious playbook. It's very predictable. Okay, let's think this. Okay, so if he's doing this, we've already discussed that this is like a peace plan by name, kind of by action, sort of, but has none of the real nuts and bolts, meat pieces that are really needed to make a peace plan. Why would this happen? Trump does things for a reason, and it's usually self-promotion of some kind. This sounds like something that if I'm in Trump's shoes that I'm going to do so I can say in the re-election campaign, look at me, I'm ending the war in Afghanistan. I did it. No one else could do it. I did it. I, Donald Trump, did it. But also being Donald Trump, actually not doing it and not really changing anything right now. This just seems like this is an election argument that he's going to bring up, especially if he thinks he's going to go against Biden, who he has already attacked for going after the Iraq war, for the Afghanistan war. He's going to maintain his position where he's like, I didn't want to go to the war. I said it was a bad idea, and now I ended it. Look at Biden. Can't even put a sentence together. He can't end it. I will. You need to re-elect me as president. And that's going to be a rather effective means of attack if that is indeed what he's planning, which...
Yeah.
All things being equal, Occam's razor involved, this would be the most likely plan I would
He's
expect.
going to claim peace in Israel, too, isn't he?
Yeah.
So here's how we got to look at this. We got to get out of these wars. We have to get out of these regime change wars that's taking away a lot of our treasury. The military-industrial complex takes the majority of our budget, all right? And think about what that treasury can be used for. I don't know, rebuilding our infrastructure, student debt forgiveness, Medicare for all.
Superfund
You know,
sites.
we can actually do something to actually make this country livable and actually start upgrading the way we live. I mean, for some reason, we have the money for all these wars, but we don't have the money to take care of our sick. We don't have the money to do student debt forgiveness. We don't have the money. We don't have the money. Then where are we getting the money for these wars? Because all what these wars are doing is just for us to help the oil industry control natural resources in countries that are not in the United States or near the United States. It's all overseas. We're just creating this empire that, you know what, can easily collapse because that's what happens to a lot of empires. Read the long, sad book history of the decline of empires. You'll see the Roman Empire, the Mongol Empire, and you know what? The United States Empire is just right there too. We can end up just like them. We're better than this. We got to end these wars because if we don't, we're looking at another generation fighting a needless war and another one and another one. Will we ever know peace? And that's why we're doing this here at Hardlands Media, so that we can actually make sure we stop this stuff and actually we can help promote people to fight for a better future at the federal level, at the state level, because we got to take back our government and make sure that we fight for a better future. We as citizens deserve that because we have to make sure that the next generation has a healthy planet to live on. And we can do this. We have what it takes. Don't be that person who says that they wish they could have helped.